Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. Today I'll be talking to Charlotte Pridmore. I'll be asking her about how she's helping women who want to achieve more. Too many people are out there and suffering from this pandemic. As you have realized, the pandemic has affected more women have lost their jobs because a lot of women are based in those sectors that are predominantly affected by the pandemic. But Charlotte will be talking to us about this critical issue, about how she's going to help women to achieve more, to gain more, to be more. So many people would now be wondering in their homes, what can I do? I want a transformation change. I want to be this different person than I was yesterday. I want to take that bold step. She's helping us to achieve those dreams. She helps women own and transform their story, embody their goodness, and attract what they want out of life. Like, for example, are you seeking wellness help during this challenging time? Our conversation will be focusing on how you could find that wellness help within yourself and also utilize that to also help others. I can't wait to talk to Charlotte. She's a mother, she's a life coach, and she's a wife, of course. And she'll be telling us all these different challenges and how she's achieving them to help as many women as she can during this pandemic. Meet Charlotte. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. As I said in my introduction, I have the amazing Charlotte, who will be talking about becoming her. I think in this light of this pandemic, we all need to find who our true self is and how we could become a better version of ourselves. Charlotte, thank you so much for joining me. How are you?
I'm really, really well, thank you. Really well.
I'm so glad. And where are you joining me from?
So I live in a town called Retford, which is in Nottinghamshire. So it's about 20 minutes from Robin Hood. So 20 minutes from Sherwood Forest. Got a
Yeah,
vibes going on.
I hope you have a lovely weather today.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's raining here, but you can't really see much because you have my wallpaper there.
yeah, it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. So how are you doing? I reached out to you because I really wanted to understand this becoming her. I think in times like this, we're all confused about who we are and how do we become the better version of ourselves. A lot of women, I'm not sure if you follow this, but a lot of women have lost their self in this pandemic. Not only have they lost themselves through their jobs, they've lost themselves in their marriages, they've lost themselves being home, the primary person with homeschooling the kids. So
Mm.
there's so much that has affected we women during this pandemic, and you're becoming her just really resonates now with everything. But before we dig into all of that, can you tell us a little bit about who is Charlotte?
Okay, so I had a very normal upbringing. Working class mining town in the East Midlands. My brother left. My brother's 7 years older than me. He left to move. He moved to London when I was 11, and I always had this concept of a bigger. There was a bigger picture for me. There was always something. I didn't want to stay put where I was, so I moved to London when I was 19. Literally got a job on the Thursday, started on the Monday. Just moved, left everything, and I was there for a decade, and I did loads of different jobs. So I worked in television, advertising, health clubs, um, but I never really found anything that I loved, that I just loved, and I wanted to. My dad always said to me, find something you love to do and get paid to do it. Like, so I was always in search of that thing, and then all, life sort of all went a bit wrong because I bought a house. I met somebody, was with them for 9 years. We bought a house, we had a baby, and 6 months after I had the baby, I left him. So, and I left my house, my job, my friends, him. So I ended up back at home in my mum and dad's house with a 6 month old baby. I was 30, I was overweight, I was miserable, I was all the things. And then that year, I'd completely lost myself. I was not in a good place. On the outside, it looked fine,
Exactly.
but everything I thought, I can't be here. Like, this can't be it. Like, this can't be it. And so I was on benefits for a year. I was sharing a house with my friend. I was just going out too much and not looking after myself in any way, mentally, physically, emotionally, anyway. And and then I just got to the point where I need to work. Like, I'd worked since I was 15, retrained as a hairdresser because my mum's one. I'd always been really good at it. got a job, worked in a salon, and was just like, this can't be it. Like I had this like early midlife crisis. I was like, this cannot be it. I had such big dreams. I had such big expectations of my life. And then I got introduced to a business. I said yes, even though I wanted to say no. And that completely transformed everything. So it was a network marketing business. I was very successful in it. And I really found personal growth and personal development within that. When I actually look back, it's funny because I think my personal growth journey started with Sex and the City. Like I genuinely do. Like me and my friend used to like watch it and then discuss, you know, life and relationships and love. And so I really got this fascination with pondering and, you know, looking inward and analyzing stuff. And so anyway, the business really really cemented that sort of love of personal growth. And what happened was I just was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And the business became less what I wanted to do. Then there was near bankruptcy. Then there was all the things. So I retrained as a coach in 2017. And I've not looked back since. It's just been the best journey of my life. And I think that when you talk about women losing themselves, I think women are lost before this. I think that my mission is women settle. They settle for a life less than extraordinary because they don't think it's available to them. And that's down to upbringing, social surroundings, where they're from, what's been modeled to them, all the reasons that make us who we are. And I did a live about it last night. It was just like, we're given our availability by everybody else.
Yeah.
This is what's available to you. You know, in the UK, we've got the census. I was like, I refuse to live up to my census just because I come from here and I've had this I'm in this demographic, and that doesn't mean that I have to adhere to what you say is expected of me. So I think that with Becoming Her specifically, it was, for me, it's a woman's first step into inward work. So we focus on life, love, and business. I get guest coaches in from all over the world in all different areas, and then I do masterclasses myself in there. So it's like their first instance in like investing in themselves. It's very low cost, but most women would not spend £33 on themselves when they haven't physically got anything for it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's the first step for them to invest in themselves. The first step for them to be in a community of women that don't judge them, they can be completely honest about their life. In fact, I've just had a member go live and tell her full story, the first time she's ever told anybody to anything. And these are people she's never met.
Wow.
So it's powerful. So I think that, yes, I think the pandemic has added to that issue. But I think, if I'm honest, I think most women were already lost in some way before we even started.
No, I totally agree with you on that one, because I think there's so many things which you've just pinpointed. There's things to do with your background, where you've grown up and how your parents have nurtured you, and what your family have told you. That I've seen families where the son is always prioritized. Oh, he has to have it. He's going to be the breadwinner of the family one day. He has to look after his family one day. So you have to let him be. And so it's so difficult when you've heard that all your life to kind of channel that energy that, oh, one day you're now programmed to always think that this person's going to be the breadwinner. So why do I need to achieve more? Why do I need to aim my job in this society just to produce kids and sit at home and look after the kids, cook some food? And you're absolutely right. It's not the pandemic. It sounds like it is the pandemic, because we know the pandemic has highlighted it even more. So we're looking at it and we're like, oh, should we blame it on the pandemic? The easy option. But
Right.
you're absolutely spot on there, Charlotte, by saying it is not the pandemic. But one of the things I really like about your work is that you want us to own our story. You're not shy about that. You don't want us to be shy about our background, or probably daddy telling us in our head that we can't do it because we're women. We should be at home. We should just go look for the easy option. How do we find confidence to own our story? Because it's very difficult to do that.
It is very difficult, and I don't think it's something that you can just click your fingers and tell a woman to own her story. I'll tell you my first experience. I mean, I believe spiritually that people come into your lives for a reason at the right time, and my first ever client was somebody who had and I have permission to share her story, obviously I won't mention her name, but she had suffered systematic sexual abuse for 7 years in her childhood, every Thursday. for years. And she had, when she came to me, it was a mum friend at school. She was in her early 40s. She was still self-harming. She was functioning. She had this facade. And we just started talking. And I was, if I'm honest, completely unqualified to deal with that situation. But she said, I want to tell you. I was like, okay, well, let's just feel our way through it. No expectations, no, I'm not here to fix this, but I'm here to listen if you want to talk. So, and, that was nearly 3 years ago. But what I witnessed then, and it was a gift, was the power of somebody just owning it, just saying it out loud. And so suddenly I had this woman in front of me whose life has now completely changed. She is a completely different woman. She understands what joy is. She feels now in every element. Because I don't know if you're a fan of Brené Brown, but one of my favorite Brené Brown quotes is, if you can't selectively numb, if you numb from pain, you numb from joy. So because she had totally numbed herself out to all pain, she was totally numbed out to everything. So, and so me witnessing that was like such a gift, because it was like, oh my God, she just told me. She just said it. I mean, it took a long time, don't get me wrong. In the first session, she said 3 words in 2 hours, but it was just me witnessing the physical, what someone's story physically does to them. If there's shame and anger and sadness and all the painful emotions that go along with a painful story. But as she started to, my belief is, right, we're all the same.
Yeah.
We're all the same. But what I mean by that is, I've identified this thing that I call the gap. There are women in the gap, and there are women with headline trauma. I call it headline trauma. So kind of trauma that people want to write newspaper articles about, that people go, oh, and they make a documentary about that kind of trauma, abuse, neglect, all the things. Then you've got people the other end of the spectrum, women at the other spectrum, where they've just, had a very blissful life. Nothing really bad's ever happened. They've still had, things happen, but, everything's. And then there's the women in the gap. And I consider myself to be a woman in the gap. And what that gap is that something's happened to them. So I was raped when I was 20. I didn't call it that till 2 years ago, because it just happened to me. Because I wasn't dragged down an alleyway by somebody with, black gloves on, and because it didn't happen like that, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And every woman I speak to, and my first thing with clients is, tell me your story. The first 2 sessions is just tell me everything that you have an emotional connection to, be it good or bad. And they'll go, oh, nothing's really happened really. And then they'll tell me these things, and I'm like, listen to what's happened, own it, honor it. It needs your attention. You are worthy of feeling this. And so when I had the big epiphany about my story, and I had a very early sexual experience when I was very, very young, which started a domino effect of other things that accumulated ultimately in the thing that happened when I was 20. So I suddenly was like, and having that first experience with that first client, and it actually helped me, because I was like, oh my God, I felt like that. And somebody said to me once, one of my mentors said to me, emotion doesn't care about experience. So somebody can get smacked on the arse at work by their boss, and somebody can get sexually assaulted. The emotion is the same, but the experience is different.
Absolutely.
But there's millions of women in this gap that have gone through life, and the things that have happened to them, they aren't headline. I call them paper cuts, paper cut women, where over time, these little things that have happened that have weakened their strength, or made them feel inferior, or made them feel not enough. And over time, I honestly see it like we're born and we're naked and we're amazing, and we're all the potential and everything. And then all these little things happen, and it slows us and it slows us. And then we get to this age and we're just like, that's it. There's no more growth, because I haven't got the confidence. I'm just filled with fear and doubt and worry and not enoughness. So my work is liberating that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so one of the important things I think you really mentioned is that telling the story, because that starts to give you confidence to understand what next. Because that's really my question now, is that, okay, now I've told my story, how do I gain that confidence as a woman to find that peace? And I think that's where people get pain. I say to people, there's so much pain in everything we do in life, and until you find your peace in your pain, you can't move forward. It doesn't matter what kind of pain. Even people with chronic illness, I always say to them, you need to find a loving with your chronic illness. I used to call my sickle cell anemia my friend. People ask me, why do you call it your friend? I said, because I need to make peace with it. I can't keep saying this thing. Because at one time we were fighting each other. We were fighting. I was like, why are you me? Why are you this awful thing that makes me always sick? But we found a way to become, we made peace with ourselves. And I think this is what I understand about telling your story. You need to find that story and tell your story. And how do you go into that next step of life of owning that peace, where you find that peace within yourself to want more? Because the critical thing is that people need to want more. Women need to feel that confidence to want more. How do you do that?
Okay, so I think that that happens once the story's told and it's okay. And you have to be really careful who you choose to tell your story to. Like whoever you tell your story to, you honor them by telling it. So it's really important to find a community, to find someone you trust, to find someone who has zero judgment about, because that's our fear. The reason we don't tell our stories is that we fear judgment. We fear people will see us for the truth of who we believe we are, which is not the truth. So I think that find somebody, the steps are find somebody you trust, find somebody open and willing to listen and who will hear you and won't just jump in and start telling their stories. Somebody to hear you. Then when you tell it, you're like, oh, nothing bad happened. That first client I told you about, the first experience was that she couldn't physically say the words. Her throat would tighten up. She would feel physically sick because she had been told by her abuser that if she told anybody, she would die. And so you keep telling that story over and over again, and your body will respond. Your body just does as it's told. So it's going to respond like, don't do this, don't do this. So I always say that once it's told and it's okay, and that takes a period of time for that to feel okay, then the confidence comes from, oh, actually, and then you start sharing it. People got going, oh, me too. Because once you start telling it, you understand that you're not alone.
Yes.
And you go, oh, that happened to me. And you go, oh, I'm not a weirdo. I'm not a freak. I'm not a bad person. It's just, this is normal. This is normal because everything happens to all people, right? So, and then the confidence comes from, right, okay, I am not what I thought I was. So therefore, what can I become? And what's available? Okay, I believe that this was available to me because of who I thought I was. Now I know I'm not that person, and this is the work. It's not just a right, tell your story and that's it. It's like, right, okay, I've told it. It's okay. Who do I want to be now? Because up until this point, my life, my actions, my thoughts, my behaviors, my beliefs have been dictated to by the story that I've told myself that actually isn't true, has probably been exaggerated, has probably been because you've seen it through the eyes of your experience. So it's funny you say make friends with your pain. Like, I have my voice in my head, my mean girl. I've now just made her my best friend. So when I talk to clients, I say, listen, that voice is to protect you. Your brain's job is not to make you happy. It's to keep you safe. So instead of listening to her and believing every word she says, I just say, look, I appreciate you looking after me, but I've got this. This is a choice I'm making. So I've sort of separated my spirit and my soul and who I am and the decisions I make from this voice. I listen to her. I don't shun her. I don't shame her. I just say, listen, I know, like, it's almost like, have you seen that film? Oh God, I can't remember the name of it now. It's a kids film, like a Pixar film, and it's the girl with the emotions, and it's got all the anger.
Yes, I remember. Oh gosh, I too can't remember that because she has a family as well.
Yeah. So when I saw that film, I was a bit like, wow, that's a really interesting concept. And one of the coaches that I work with, she calls it her finger monkey, because she's like, take the cutest thing you can put. Have you ever seen a finger monkey? They're like the cutest things ever, like a little monkey holding onto your finger. If you make it into something cute or adorable or something that you care about, and also in NLP, like when we talk about negative voices, like turn it into a voice that you love, like turn it into a voice of your best friend, and suddenly it becomes just something different.
It does.
And so, but I think the confidence comes over time. It's not there's not one answer to any of that. I think that, and it's different for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's finding your way. And that's one of the reasons that I get guest coaches in to Becoming Her, because I don't want them to just hear my voice. I don't want them to just hear my perspective and my point of view, because I mean, this month we had something about, it was like, it was a love masterclass because it was February. And it was about everlasting passion in long-term relationships. And it was about intimacy. And a couple of months before, I'd had Dr. Chelsea Page, she's got like a doctorate in human sexuality, both talking about intimacy, both in completely different ways. So I think it's about opening your mind and your heart and your perspective to as many influences as you can, and taking what you like from certain people and leaving what you don't. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like a broad spectrum of people within. In fact, I'd love you to do one, actually. That'd be amazing.
And, Charlotte, you were talking about the pandemic still. I know we started our conversation, we said, yeah, this whole thing started from before, but I think the pandemic still brought a difference. It still brought more, and I think more panic, more fear. I love your topic, Becoming Her. Why did you choose that name? And what is Becoming Her?
Becoming Her is, there is no end. It's the becoming that's the joy. It's not, there's no end. There's no end to it. Like, my end to my becoming will be my last breath. So it's like, as I move through life, I am constantly like, I'm a bit of a growth addict, I suppose. Like, and it's funny because I was thinking of starting a podcast and calling it Unbecoming Her, because it's as much about unbecoming as it is about becoming. Unbecoming doubtful, unbecoming fearful, unbecoming a slave to my story, because everything has two ends, right? So there's this Becoming Her where it's the growth and the moving forward, but it's also, we have to look back before we can move forward. And I think, my one-to-one work and my programs aren't about like not standing in and asking why. It's what do I want instead? But we have to understand our story. We have to understand the impact it's had on us, on our mental, emotional, physical well-being, in order for us to be aware of enough to move for it. So Becoming Her is that process. It's owning your past and not being ashamed of it, not being ashamed of anything that's happened to you or anything you've done. Because I always say that whatever you've done that you think is bad, like my favorite Maya Angelou quote is, one of my favorite Maya Angelou quotes is, I knew then what I knew how to do. Now I know better, I do better. That's what Becoming Her is. It's I knew then, I have empathy, add empathy to all things. I just did then what I knew how to do, with the emotions and the resources and the capabilities I had at that time. Now I know better, I do better. So that's what Becoming Her is. It's just an evolving, my free group's called the Ever Evolving Woman. So it's the same thing.
And our final question would be about this the women issue. So many of us are going through tough times, and we're not courageous enough to say, this is it. This is the time I need to make that change. What is your hope for women out there on their journey to Becoming Her?
I have a four-pronged approach to. I've got a program called All Woman, and that four-pronged approach is an incredible mindset. I want women to understand their mind. I want them to understand the difference between their body reaction and their thoughts. So it's having an incredible mindset. It's having high emotional intelligence, understanding emotion, feeling it, allowing ourselves to feel. We don't allow ourselves to feel. We just go, especially British, stiff upper lip, just get on with it. Everything's fine. And if I dare say it, a lot of women, and I've done it myself, so I can say it with, owning it. We slip into martyrdom. It's like, oh, I'll just do it, it's fine. So I think some women can, we can slip into martyrdom, and then we hate ourselves for it. So it's just, we don't want to be that, but we've just sort of become this. So It's really knowing how to feel. It's emotional intelligence. It's knowing how to hold somebody else's emotion, knowing how to communicate well, not overreacting to everything that's said to us, not taking everything personally, just being able to hear someone and go, okay,
Yeah.
I hear you. Let me just process this and let me respond to you in a way that I am aligned with, not in reaction to what you're saying. And then we have our spirituality, our connection and belief that we are not alone. Like, there is, you are guided, you are supported, you are loved. And if you trust that and own that, it allows you to lean back into your feminine and become a better receiver of help and guidance and support. Because I think a lot of time women, they're so in their masculine most of the time. What do I need to do to fix this? What do I need to do to make this better? What do I need to do to help you? And so we become very bad at receiving. So therefore we don't accept help or even ask for it. And then finally, our connection to our bodies, like owning it, loving it, making decisions from it. Because I think most women are severed their connection to their physical selves. So they don't trust their gut anymore. They don't trust their intuition. They just make decisions with their mind, which ultimately ends up in things not going the way that they want to go. So my hope is just that, and well, women that come into communities like yours, into communities like ours, that choose to take the path of growth, and that they learn to shine the light and be the example to those women not brave enough to take that choice. So over time, I really believe that women, will change the world. I believe that, and I think there's a lot of space for incredibly empowered women in this world to change the trajectory of where things are going. But that's my hope. I mean, it's not a big one, is it?
No, it's not gonna. I think it will happen with what you're doing. For example, becoming her will give more and more women more confidence to become who they truly are. Dream all their dreams. I know women who've dreamt of being doctors, but because their family have always told them you can't be a doctor because you're the one who's going to look after your kids when you have when they're born, or when you look after your husbands. That dream is slightly faded away. But more and more people, with what you're doing, truly, I really believe more and more women will start gaining that confidence to find their true self. And I looked at your website and saw your program. Amazing.
Thank you. I think also as well, becoming her doesn't necessarily mean achieving massive things.
No.
Sometimes externally, nothing changes. It's how we feel in the situation we're in.
Yeah.
You don't have to want to take over the world. You don't want to have to become a CEO of a company, but it's who you are. I want women to just be themselves, and that be okay.
Yeah, I like that what you said about accepting you, because we only think that way up, but also accepting everything of you. It doesn't matter your shape, size, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you look like, but loving it and embracing it.
Yes, 100%.
That is truly it. Charlotte, thank you so much for this.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you for your time. And I really hope I'm sure we'll be in touch again soon to talk more about becoming her, and especially women who have really gone through a difficult time. Talk more in depth. Thank you.
Thank you so much.